Tabletops will start after the following messages.
Many miles from here, past all the hustle and bustle of your town, past the mountains and hills, across the rivers and through the forest, there is a meadow. In this meadow are several divots and burrows housing a large and united warren of bunnies.
Well, one day I'm going to go out into the forest and I'm going to meet the forest gods myself.
Why are you showing me this? What does this have to do with me and what's going on in the warren?
It does puzzle me a little bit why the stories from different storytellers are different.
So we're in agreement.
Yes.
I'll see you at the lunch bell.
Bunnies and Burrows, the next Game Master Monday miniseries begins May 6th, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tabletop, everyone. Today we are talking about intelligent versus instinctual monsters, and we are going to be talking with some of the best in the biz. I'm your host, Nick, but who do we have around the table?
It's me, Franco, and intelligence is a social construct created by colonialists. And
Is it by colonialists?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Who's that?
Who just spoke? Who just spoke?
It's me, your boy, Rio, with that golden trio.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I
there
admit
you
to
go.
that.
No one prepared anything today.
What do you have over there?
Hi, I'm Shade, and
It's got a rhyme.
I'm just doing this off of instinct right now.
All right. Today
What
we're
is instinct anyway? What are we?
Is
You
that
know,
a colonial
Who
construct?
am I? I think, therefore I am, or I am, therefore I think. Anyway, so we're going to talk about monsters today. And we were kind of talking about, like, the origins of this was talking about two kind of separate things. Running monsters in your game as intelligent, kind of sentient beings versus instinctual intelligence, which is much more like running them intelligently in combat so that they make kind of like optimal moves based off of the instinct of the creature. And then like the differences between those things, because you can have monsters like liches or whatever that have sentience and they have plans and they have all that kind of thing. And like, how do you run those effectively? And then you also have things like a giant cave spider that might, you know, like stealthily stay on the top of the cave until something walks under it, and then its instinct is like to drop down and eat it as quickly as possible or something like that. And that's sort of like two very separate ways to run things, and we wanted to learn how to do this in an engaging, fun way. So let's start with instinct. How do you run a monster instinctually? What are the tenets in there?
What is free will? You
Yeah.
know, like, how do they make these decisions on instinct? What is instinct anyway?
Yeah, I guess it's like need based, you know? So you could like say, are these, I guess that's a really great reason to start is like, why are these things in combat with the party? Are they looking for food? Are they looking for defending shelter or young? Like, what is the thing?
Yeah. So I guess if the difference is like sort of more survival based versus like, okay, well, I'm an intelligent creature, so I'm going to create sort of like strategic or tactical scenarios that are trying to achieve goals that are beyond, you know, sort of like basic needs, then that might be a way to think about it. Because I think like, a cave spider dropping down on somebody from the ceiling, it's pretty smart to me.
Well, we did this recently in Humblewood when we were playing that, and I had those like rope grippers that were on the ceiling that you guys couldn't reach with swords and stuff, and they would like basically throw a sticky tongue down.
Is that one of the episodes I was asleep for?
Yeah, that was the one you were asleep for. Where our poor Dormouse friend passed away because it didn't have the
Gamal.
protector of the party.
Gamal dust to Gamal dust.
But like this creature stayed at the top of the cave where it was relatively safe. It would like throw down essentially like a fly trap to stick somebody and then pull them up to it.
Classic ambush predator.
Exactly. And so like that was something that I got out of like somebody else had written that as like this is how this thing runs. So when you're trying to build sort of like how something hunts or moves throughout a combat, where do you guys start? I mean, Rio, you work from biology quite a bit. So is there like a way that you build encounters based off of instinctual like monster traits, or what do you do?
It just depends on kind of what's going on. Because I think we've done this before where you have been traveling and you came across some predatory birds. And I was like, okay, well, they have just eaten.
Yeah.
So they're not going to just randomly attack the party. So I'll let you do like, oh, you can probably talk to get out of this.
Yeah.
And you tried to charge them?
No, I tried to Crocodile Dundee them, where I was trying to basically like, you're one of, I am the dominant creature here.
Oh, right. Yes.
Big dog it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in that way I was like, okay, what would this predatory bird do in this situation?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, it's not hungry and it's not threatened.
Yeah.
So it would be, it's going to let this group of people like just travel by.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times you have to like do that work, because if every monster just attacks every single person, obviously people wouldn't just let these animals, there would be just hellfire on all the forest.
Yeah.
Which, if you ever watch a monster movie with me, not a monster movie, but a big creature movie.
Like kaiju?
Not like kaiju, but like
Anaconda
or Jurassic Park.
The Megalodon
Jaws.
series.
And I'm always just like, that predator just ate someone. Why is it still hunting all these people? It's fine for like the rest of the next 2 days. It's going to go sit and rest, because predators don't just constantly hunt.
Yeah.
They hunt to eat, and then they conserve energy.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense when you're doing a big creature film that the creature just kills people and then just leaves the bodies around.
Yeah.
So
What about
play a smarter beastie?
So there was a thing
that.
there's a thing that we were talking during the OSR episode about sort of like sometimes the creature comes back to like curb stomp somebody so that they're like out of the fight completely, like they're dead. And then I think one of you brought up, and I'm pointing at Franco and Rio, brought up the idea of like, I grab my prey that I just killed and runs away with it.
Well, we had one party member who got critical hit by a pair of wolves and had his arm and leg ripped off.
Yeah, but you did that out of spite.
It wasn't spite. It wasn't spite. But then those wolves ran off because they had gotten their food. They didn't just drop the easy-to-eat arm and then attack the living person because, you're in a fight. It was like, no, we have these 2 pieces of food and we're going to go eat those because that's what we were after. We were after food, not to kill you.
Do you ever feel like this infringes upon like a perceived character agency within the game?
Huh?
Because
How?
like imagine you're a player and you get downed by a creature and then it just like continues to target you and like essentially curb stomp you.
Yeah, why not?
Does that like more easily draw up feelings of like resentment towards a GM?
Sure.
Or like
Only if you're childish.
like how do you sort of think about that?
You have to build the trust first.
Yeah.
You
Has to happen every time as well. Sorry.
It doesn't have to happen because like a band.
I just mean consistently.
Yeah, like this type of giant wolf spider is always going to paralyze you, pick you up, and run away.
Mm-hmm.
This leopard is always gonna rip out your throat to make sure you're dead, or this wizard is always gonna target the cleric first, and then make sure that they're dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just playing smarter, I guess. Like if you just should expect that level of it's a trust thing.
Yeah, totally. I'm not saying that this is not the way to do it, because I actually think it's kind of like an interesting way to go about like combat encounters, to ascribe like instinctual motivations to like non-sentient creatures is like chef's kiss. However, I do think that like
spaghetto.
I've just heard in like either online or in circles that we've played with, like the idea of sort of like the GM is metagaming, or there is there is a dark intelligence behind the violence that becomes less about like the player's getting what they want out of the game. And so I'm trying to think of like, how do you make this so that it doesn't feel like different or obstructive and instead feels like more world based rather than like a GM
Telegraphing.
puppeting. Yeah.
So you
telegraphing
need to telegraph. So for example, in in a wolf example, maybe your ranger, because they have all the various ranger abilities, realizes there are wolves in the area. Maybe they even spot, oh no, we are starting to kind of be encircled by these wolves. This is a great chance for maybe, give that ranger an additional chance to make a nature roll or something like that before shit pops off. And they can, on a very low DC, because wolves are pretty a known quantity. Or maybe even just don't even do a fucking roll. Just say like, this is a known quantity. Don't do a roll. It depends on what kind of story you're telling, but yeah, don't do a roll.
Don't never roll. Stop rolling dice. Stop it.
That's right. Only do card-based.
Card-driven combat. Only roll dice when the consequences of failure would actually happen. Yeah.
No, I do agree.
Yeah.
But you can say, that wolves are going to go, or this pack animal is going to go for the weakest, most sickly looking individual.
And then you pick the player you want to target, because fuck that guy.
Well, no, but then everyone gets to have this moment of realization on, the wizard is only half HP and is already like
the wizard's on a stretcher right now.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, he's bleeding and the blood is dripping and the wolves can smell it.
And you can continue to kind of like telegraph that by having the wolves kind of like try and go for the wizard. And when they do it, this is something I've been thinking since we brought this up in the OSR conversation. I do think that there needs to be more for creatures that like bite and want to. I think there needs to be more grappling for those creatures because there's not really a lot of that.
I made an alligator in Cairn that can take off your limbs.
Great.
That's what
critical
they do.
damage.
Yeah. And, like have them try and like pull that character away. Like just keep kind of like telegraphing, and like you can even point it out as the GM and say like, those wolves are definitely going for your wizard and they are trying to pull that guy away. And that's gonna kind of make the wizard maybe feel like, oh shit, I'm being targeted, but also you've given a reason for why this is happening. It's a very logical reason, and it becomes an interesting combat.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
You don't even have to, have the ranger do it. You could just have like when the wolves come up, you just say like you see them like sniffing around, and then you can see that, and then you point to the wizard character player, and you're just like you realize that your like bandages are seeping and stuff like that. So that's it.
Another great way.
Wolves will usually go for the throat or for the stomach. Oof. So for your grappling thing, you could just like if the wizard was on a stretcher, like okay, the wolf has now grappled the wizard around the neck, and the wizard not only has taken that bite piercing damage, but is now also, because this is a wolf's hunt, suffocating.
Yeah,
and now you have a couple of hints, and now the other
no verbal components.
No verbal components.
Yeah, this is a wizard killer wolf.
And so now the other wolves would go for the stomach because they're going to kill as a group, and so you're not piling on.
Right.
That's just how wolves.
That's their strat.
Right. It would also be super interesting that like it does make sense in a world of like magical chanting people that like wildlife that does prey upon humans would learn that like, oh, we're more successful when we stop them from being able to like make any sound.
Oh my God, that's a great idea for the evolutionary like convergency of animals who live in this world where things can be like Azeroth, Mintheos, Zinthloth, and fire comes out. Yeah. Oh, I need to attack your mouth.
Also, sometimes birds just utter phrases that they've heard and they teleport somewhere.
That's so
amazing.
Funny. You have like birds that are like totally
Mimics,
casting classes now. But another thing that I was going to bring up was, so this was kind of a instinctual monster. It was in like a game where there was a kind of like curse of hunger where like these people would essentially be given the gift of hunger, and then they would be so hungry they would lose all reasoning and they would just kind of like go nuts. And the way that this was telegraphed to us, which I thought was interesting, and I think you can, to your point, Shay, do this more in your descriptions if you want to play this way. Like when we found this woman in a basement. She was like kind of had manacles on and had like it was clear that she had broken them off the wall, but it was also clear that she had like there were bite marks all on her arm, like on her arms where her mouth could reach, essentially, giving the context clues of like don't get close to this person. Yeah. So like that was enough of like a context clue that we're like, okay, this person is obviously very like bitey, I guess.
Little tangent here. Jackie recently started watching a thing that came out. I don't know when. It's this. It's on Netflix currently, but it's about like this ice skating, and it's like a
Yuri on Ice.
No, not an anime. It's a live action kind of like drama-esque thing, and the main character. I like walked into the room and she was biting her arm like very violently. Like this is her form of self-harm, I guess.
Oh boy.
I was like, what the fuck is this all of a sudden? Because like I walked out at one point.
Art imitates life. But also Little Tangent should be your rap name.
Yeah, Little Tangent.
Little tangent.
Little Tangent.
I think telegraphing is I think telegraphing is really important. I like to telegraph that gator thing that I was talking about. I ran these gators in 5e as well, and I had like the characters like see a gator in the distance and it death rolls a deer and rips its leg off. And like
see what I did there?
See what I did there? There was another thing that I telegraphed and they just fucking didn't get it. It was so funny because later they were, so I'll just tell you. I had a beholder and a panopticon. Okay. Panopticon is a type of prison where there's a warden in the center. And they're able to observe. It's like a cylindrical structure, and then the prison cells are all the way around.
Oh, like in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
That kind of setup. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so like the idea is like the prisoner's never able to see
whether the guards are looking.
Yes. Yeah. And so I had a beholder be the warden. And I had them.
The eyes are always looking.
Yeah. I had them come in, and they saw like petrified bodies, and then they saw like piles of ash in the shape of humanoids. Yeah. And they were just like fighting, and they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna fight it. And I was like, okay. And then they killed it. And then later I was like, every turn I described them like pushing their feet through the ash of these humanoid shaped ash piles or whatever. And one of my players apparently said like, oh yeah, but he wasn't gonna like disintegrate us. And then everybody was like, no, Franco would totally do that. Yeah, he would totally 100%. Disintegrate you.
Oh man. Yeah, so
see, that's metagaming. We're like, oh, the DM wouldn't do this to our characters. Yeah. You got to play from the character's perspective at all times.
So we have this sort of like if you're gonna do something that feels more like intelligent in the way that you're attacking, and maybe it feels more like targeting specific characters, maybe will lead to people feeling on the outs or whatever. Telegraphing the danger of these creatures as much as you can.
Should always telegraph the danger.
Yeah, don't. Like even if it's a surprise, if this wolf spider like falls down from the ceiling and like grabs somebody and then starts like running away with it, then you just make that clear. Like it looks like it's about to just run away with its prey or something, and then that is you just tell.
I would just let him run away with the prey. Well, because honestly, it's kind of like it's not lethal, right? I feel like the lethality is the thing that you should telegraph more than anything. But I think the running away with the body is fine.
Yeah, I've done that. I've had goblins run off with like the first downed body that they found.
Yeah, and he's like, "Fuck!" And it's like, "Oh, we gotta save them." And he's like, "Oh, they're not dead. They're just passed out."
You've got to fight the big boss, and you got to save your guy from the minions.
So how would you? Let's take
a break?
No. I hate only using 5e, but 5e does have like monster blocks. I know 5e does have as well.
You know what we could use? My favorite system, Powered by the Apocalypse.
Powered by the Apocalypse.
How would you? I'm just saying, like, how would you, as you're prepping a session or whatever, if you think that they might come across some sort of like instinctually based monster, how are you going to build something that makes it feel like those are more like instinctually intelligent? Because when you have a stat block in D&D as it is right now, it's very much like it has these, and if it does this, it does this.
Yeah, it has like fucking paragraphs and shit.
It has a flow chart.
No, it doesn't even have a flow chart. It just has like paragraphs and paragraphs of shit. There's a paragraph after the monster stat block that like describes shit about the thing, and I just look at the monster and I read the stats and I'm like, let me just make something up. And that's hard to do. In something like Cairn, it'll give you 3 bullet points and it'll tell you what its strat is, what it can do. It'll just give you like 3 bullet points of like what does this thing look like?
Shade and Franco are at war.
What's its strat? Like what's it whatever? It's 3 bullet points. You think I'm gonna read like 10 paragraphs? I'm not gonna read your 10 paragraph essay about like what a harpy does. It's like just tell me harpy gouges eyes out on critical damage. If it gets to you, it's gonna gouge out your eyes. That's all I need. I need that. It sings a song. This is its strat. It's gonna fly away to it's gonna protect its nest. That's all I need. Just 3 lines, and then just tell me how much it hits, and then what it does, and how many appear.
I just need to know something.
I can't wait for this.
You said something that didn't make sense to me here.
Okay.
You said it has a block of what is a flavor text is what it is. It's context of what type of creature it is. And you said you don't read that, and then you just make something up, which is hard. Why aren't you just reading and using what's in the flavor text?
Yeah. I read the flavor text and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just saying that it's hard to do that because 5e doesn't give you the tools to do things easily. It gives you essays and piles of things to read, and then you're just like, okay, great. Like, what is this harpy gonna do when it does stuff? I'll just make something up, or I'll just read it and I don't know. I feel like it's just like it's like too much information to dump on a referee that has to run hundreds of monsters, has to voice hundreds of NPCs, has to like have wolf packs spring out of the fucking forest, and
I never really thought about it because I do the same thing. I'm just like, oh, here's what my monster's going to do.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly, and which is great, and that's how people do run it because the 5th edition book does not give you the tools to doesn't just give you 3 bullet points. Just give me 3 bullet points. What does it do? What is it like to do? How does it fight? What's its strategy? What does it think about?
I guess like this is the thing is that this is how
I don't know what you don't get.
Well, I'm also just thinking about like earlier you said more specificity is better at an entirely different conversation.
Mean? More specificity.
You
about
were talking about like the more you can specify, and I don't remember what the conversation was, but the more we can specify.
That was in writing.
That was
right.
Yeah,
that's that.
No. Like, well, okay. What's a specific thing? Harpy gouges your eye out. That's very specific.
Yeah.
Not harpy likes to swarm or harpy likes to whatever. Harpy likes to gouge out eyes. That's very specific.
Sure.
That's a really specific thing that it does.
I don't know. I think go about it differently.
It's specificity. I'm talking about specificity. I'm not talking about just a bunch of shit. You know, like paragraphs and paragraphs of like, hey, I'm being really specific because I'm telling you a bunch of paragraphs of stuff, and it's like that's fine. I have a lot of other monsters to read.
I look at the 5e stat blocks very differently because I don't look at them and go, that's too much information. I look at them and I see what the pertinent information is.
That's what I agree. You can see what the pertinent information is because
you have the GM eyes.
you have 5e vision now, and I do too. I can look at a stat block and I can read it now.
Yeah.
But I just mean like the barrier to entry is high.
Sure.
The amount of work that you have to put in to put together one of these instinctual or intelligent monsters, I'm coming back to it, is difficult.
I did little tangent here, so
a little tangent.
But this is the thing though that I kind of want to roll into this conversation is that I was once looking up like how to make interesting combats, right?
Yeah.
And this was all about sort of positioning and tactics and all that kind of stuff, and like adding in objectives into the game. And part of me is like, how do you take a monster's instinct and be able to make the combat more interesting out of that as well?
So, I mean, it's a hierarchy of needs, ultimately. Like, why is this monster attacking? Is it attacking because it is frightened by them? In which case, it's really only attacking. It's probably only going to be it's going to try and scare them. It's not going to lunge. If it's lunging, it probably is
like you
defending.
Got too close.
It's defending itself, but it's really just trying to get in there and get away.
It'd be really cool if you were like a ranger and you could tell in the ways in which the animal is like attacking, like what its motivation is. That'd be neat.
And you know what? This is something that I think, like 5e and other TTRPGs as well, suffer from fucking.
There's no other such things. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Video games, I fucking hate so much how like adamant a wolf is that like. Or a coyote, even.
Yeah, you hit him with a huge hammer.
It's like, I'm back, baby. I'm here. Yeah, no, that's not how shit works.
I think that's kind of what I was talking about in the beginning. Is that a lot of GMs and stuff are influenced by how video games work, and so then they'll be like, they fight to the death always.
Right, exactly, and for an instinctual monster, it should be hierarchy of needs, and survival is the top of it. Always.
Yep, exactly.
So I think that is
Geralt's going to roll up on a bandit camp, and they're all going to be like, "Yo, let's kill him," and then he chops off one of their heads and be like, let's keep killing him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck off.
That guy just danced his way around and killed Jim, Bob, and Tom, and other Jim. Let's fucking get out of here.
That guy just pushed fire out of his hand.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Man,
can I say
Geralt's
something
cool.
pedantic?
Should we join him?
He's a way better bandit leader than the other guy was.
That guy doesn't even have it anymore.
Probably
yeah.
on the bottom.
Huh?
Because he says something that's probably at the top of like.
Oh, I see.
No, because it would be at the bottom. It'd be the if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes, you're right.
Survival would be on the bottom, not the top.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I know that doesn't matter, but
Top
No, it
priority,
does.
bottom
It
of
does.
pyramid.
It does. I misrepresented how that works. You got it right. It's
Good job, Rio. Thank you.
I think that I just want to throw in as well when you're running instinctual monsters
Oh, I dropped it. Sorry.
that you also just sort of have a sense of like I like the idea of ascribing a motivation to each encounter. So like at the top, be like food, like this thing's looking for food. This thing's frightened. This thing is like protecting young. You know, things like
Treka
that.
does something cool with this. They call them monster means. And it's just like, what's my vibe right now? Am I hungry? Am I horny? Am I
I was going to
sleepy?
say, like, you had a chart for meeting people. It was like, are they friendly? Are they hostile?
Yes.
Like, is it hungry? Is it desperate? Is it injured? You could roll like a little chart to see how the
I have a
animal.
table-
Let's make this and put it on Patreon.
I have a table for that in my adventure, The Devil's Millhopper. Pay what you want on itch.
Love it. All right, everyone. After this break, we're going to come back and talk about sentient monsters.
Are you the kind of person or unspeakable nightmare horror who likes actual play podcasts, but occasionally wants a break from all the high fantasy heroics? If so, you should check out Negative Modifier, an actual play podcast that specializes in darker, more mature games. You can find us on YouTube, Twitch, and more or less anywhere else podcasts can be found.
Hey everyone, it's me, Nick, from the Tabletop Podcast. When I'm not hosting, I'm thinking about ways to create a better podcast for you guys, and I think I landed on something pretty fun. In fact, if you go to our Patreon at patreon.com/tabletop and join for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to a new episode a month that we're going to start putting out. In fact, we're going to be calling this one Wild Magic, I think, in that we're going to talk about anything and everything that interests us, not just TTRPGs, though there will be a lot of that. It is truly unhinged, and if you are a fan of the podcast and all of the hosts, you're definitely going to want to be on it. We're thinking of dropping these at the end of each month, so join our Patreon today. That is patreon.com/tabletop. Oh, and there's going to be so much more coming out in the new year there, so don't miss it. Sign up today. Welcome back to Tabletop. We're talking about monsters, all the monsters. We're talking about both
What's up,
sentient
haters?
and instinctual monsters.
monster trucks specifically.
That's right. Sunday.
It's eating the other trucks.
I just found an off-road arcade machine the other day. You remember that with the monster trucks, and you go around, and it's a race, but it's with monster trucks, and so like you go on the tracks.
I love one.
Where did you find it?
How did you find an arcade going off road? I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. Sorry. You said an off road arcade.
It's like a little mall.
Speaking of, let's talk about sentient monsters.
Where'd
Before
you find
this,
a mall?
In a city.
It was
There are malls
nighttime.
here?
It was Darth.
It's nighttime. It was dark. There were malls.
Oh God, this is definitely the end of a recording
Oh,
session.
no.
Okay, here we go. So we were talking before about instinctual monsters and how you can sort of use the instinct of the creature to like liven up your encounters with these monsters. Now let's talk about intelligent monsters, which I think is a really thorny
Intelligence
sort
is
of
a
weird issue.
construct.
I'm saying
Are you
sentient,
a biological
I should
and
say.
essentialist like
No,
Gary
I'm saying
Gygax?
sentient. And this is a huge part of what I was going to say too. Originally, when we pitched this topic, was a little bit like, how do you run sentient creatures that are like in opposition to a party? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work in a way that feels okay rather than murderous?
Yeah. And if we want to throw another more nuanced term in there, creatures that have multifaceted, complex planning.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, so I think that when we think about this, like the immediate things that come to mind for me are anything from like a lich to a town guard to a kobold or goblin or whatever.
Do you guys ever think about how NPCs can lie?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
And like how, do you ever feel like maybe players sometimes don't think about the fact that NPCs could lie?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I love and hate when someone's like, "Can I do an insight check on that?"
Yeah.
That is like that's the one. There's 2 skill checks, and it is perception and insight, which I love dearly. They're one of my 2 of my favorite skills, but
No, I don't
the way
like
that
them.
sometimes people just lean on that every time.
For the record, I don't like those. I
I mean, they're supposed to be
with you
passive,
because of
right?
that.
Aren't they? Most
No,
That's
they
how
can
I
be
would.
the
active.
passive is when someone's trying to roll against you.
Gotcha.
The passive
Yeah.
are your defensive stats.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this. We can talk even about like villainous NPCs as well.
Yeah, there
you
can
run them?
there can be a problem sometimes too when you have like 5 brains working against you, and you're like, this guy's a mastermind, and he's like, oh fuck, they fucking solved my thing already.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, that's a really big hole like a logic hole that the villain has come up
But
with.
you know what you do for that situation? It was all part of the plan. If the players outsmart you, great. That was part of the plan.
Yeah,
That's right. The Joker wanted to be in jail.
yeah. I don't know. That can be a real difficult thing.
Yeah, I
Difficult
really hate it
terrain.
when you're trying to make this big, intelligent person and you've missed something so like
Yeah, so big.
because
yeah.
5 people are looking at it. and
5 people are big.
You're
brains.
looking at one thing and like 8 other aspects of a game you're trying to write in a week.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too: is like for me, whenever I approach like intelligent, and by intelligent I mean sentient creatures, is like they are not focused on the party. They have plans and things that they are trying to do, and the party kind of comes into their life. Like if you think about like a horde of goblins that are, maybe they're trying to expand their territory against like the kobolds in the west, and that means that they've been way more active on the roads, which the players stumble across. Like that. It could be like the players didn't actually factor into their kind of plan at all. It just sort of happened that these things intersected. So like I think that could be a way to start being like, how is this thing like crafting its modus operandi, and then like how does the players how are they most likely to bump into them because of that?
I mean, out the gates, it doesn't have to start with combat.
Yeah, we're on the road.
It's It doesn't have to start with combat. In fact, it shouldn't. Maybe these goblins, they're trying to sneak up on kobolds. Maybe they should be clearly being stealthy. Like if they are observed by the player characters, they are observed not looking at the player characters necessarily, or not paying them as much mind. Maybe there's like a scout who sees them or something, but they are sneaking towards a goal. Or if they interact with them, it's not immediately like an attack, but maybe they are defensive because they see, oh no, there are a bunch of adventurers who have weapons as well, and we are, generally at odds with their town or something, but they're not our primary objective.
I haven't really seen this in a game, and maybe I have, but just not in a while. I kind of want to do this where you use like something like a lich or whatever that has a ton of resources at its command, and yet we usually think of it as in a combat encounter. What if like all the heroes show up and they're like, we're gonna defeat you, we're gonna stop your evil plan, and the lich was like, I'll give you whatever you want. I will literally just give you 1,000,000 gold.
Yeah,
you
that'd be
can
sick.
start your own kingdom across the continent where you don't have
Are
to
you pointing
deal
at
with
me like I did this? Because I don't remember.
I mean, I feel
Duchess?
like I feel like we've all done some variant of this,
Yeah.
but more recently, I think your vampire that was hiring them to kidnap the Pope. Or
Yeah.
whatever, kind of a similar vibe. Like they were storming his lair originally, weren't they?
Actually, I don't remember why they went to his castle in the first place. Maybe they did go for the contract, but why'd they go there? I don't know. I think they did go for the contract in the first place, but yeah, is that right? I don't know. That was a fun one. But yes, like that. Like something like that where it's like this guy's plan is I'll tell you guys off
distract you
mic.
or get you out of the way.
Yeah.
Not to kill you necessarily.
Yeah, like maybe the
Well,
lich
to his own end, he's hiring you.
Yeah,
and
maybe-
the lich is like,
yeah.
here, have some fucking money or whatever. It's like,
Yeah, maybe the lich
get
is
outta
just
here.
like really interested in this one city or whatever and wants to dominate it and kind of turn everyone into thralls because that's where the phylactery is, and so it's making
Monsters
it defensive.
should bribe more.
Yeah,
Monsters
like,
should bribe more. I like that.
And the
I've
lich
never
could
thought
just
about
be
that.
like, you guys seem to have like a lot of magic shit. I'll give you this like wand of the war mage if we're doing D&D or whatever, and be like to just fuck off, like just get out of here, don't worry about it. And then if they stop and like are like, no, we are the heroes, it sort of adds like a level of like,
you though?
Yeah, this person didn't want to fight you.
And don't forget to put a rune of an explosive rune in that wand of the war mage, because your players will say, oh yeah, sure, get the wand and then attack the list right
and
away.
then it explodes.
So
I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, would
Ooh.
have a plan to keep that weapon from being used against it.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
But also because that can go kind of interestingly where they might go, well, obviously he's going to give us a cursed item, and then they investigate it before technically receiving it. And the Lich could be a little antsy about that, but
but I mean, I don't
think
the curse is friendship.
Investigate it in the
But also,
moment.
it could be like the Lich is like, oh yeah, I put that on there. If you backstab me, it's gonna explode.
It's just like, well,
it's
don't-
just like
just
sorry,
don't
like that's the thing.
Yeah, it just owns it.
Like I'm not gonna give away magical. Like my whole plan is that eventually when you guys die and I am still alive because I'm a Lich that will live forever, I'm just gonna go recollect my shit.
Yeah, right. So I'm not giving it to you. I'm loaning it.
yeah. I'm just like here's your stuff for a
Well,
while.
you're going to live for like 30 years, your adventures. So
Yeah.
15 years.
I love this monster.
Yeah.
How long does an elf live anyway?
Like 100 years in my game, however long you want.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But I'm also like interested to know whether or not that is that fun for players.
Yeah,
mean,
hell
yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
I would enjoy that.
You make you have a meaningful decision to make.
Yeah, because
Do you accept it?
because like Franco
reject
in the Argot Islands campaign.
Yes.
There were many a time where we would come across a sentient group or individual that had like a lot of motivations that were directly interfering with other sentient groups or individuals' motivations, like the goat people and stuff like that. There were a bunch of things like that where we would leave an island after helping a faction and being like, fuck, are we the bad guys? Like we thought that those people were on the up and up, and then we leave and we're like, fuck, I don't
Actually?
feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I was.
It's with your morality. No one's completely good or completely in the right. No matter what you do, you have to make the best decision for you.
Yeah. So it seems like the first thing that we're saying is that as a sentient creature, that it should be as adverse to violence as you want your players to be.
100%.
As you want your players
Not
to be. I like
as verse
way
to
of thinking
violence,
about
but
that.
but as verse to like putting itself in harm's way needlessly.
Yeah.
You're leading by example.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, these bandits are running away. You could do that too if you want.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm interested. Do you all think that sentient monsters should be in games? Should they be NPCs or should they be, because like the thing about it too is like it's so messy when you have like a group of bandits or whatever, you like maybe they run away and you chase them back and you see that it's just like a group of people that used to be like in
Should
an
monsters
army
always be monstrous?
Yeah, exactly. Like that
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's like, how do
Should
you
I don't
monsters
think you should
always-
put a should on that. Like it should
Yeah, you
be
don't have to
one
put
way
a
or
should on it.
another.
It's just
You can run a game where like yeah, there's going to be NPCs that you might fight because like they're just like jerks or whatever. But like all of the like quote unquote monsters are really monstrous. Like they might even just represent concepts or something like that.
Yeah.
They could be like the Shadow of the Colossus monsters. They could be like what like mythological monsters actually are, which are just like fears of like certain fears that we all have instinctually, like vampires, vampires are in some traditions they're monstrous. They're not like, aristocratic. They're like literally like, I'm gonna fucking eat your blood, bitch.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
gonna rip you apart.
I'm gonna rip you apart, I'm gonna eat you.
Because originally there weren't fangs. It was just like like shark's teeth. It was
fun.
All of the teeth are
Yeah, I think
are
the
sharp.
Nosferatu, the first ones.
Yeah.
They just ate you.
Yeah.
Strigoi.
But so is there anything else when running sentient characters? Let's move a little bit into the sort of combat side of this, because we've talked a little bit about like motivational sides and like giving them a breadth of options before they get to combat that the players can kind of interact with. But when we move into a combat thing, how should we as GMs think about running sentient creatures?
Should again.
Yeah.
How do we want to run sentient creatures?
How
Like,
would
might
one?
one?
How might one?
How can we make it the most interesting way to run these things?
think
as possible?
about their core wants and desires, and then how why fighting you would lead to that end.
Yeah.
If they're like, oh, these heroes are gonna kill me because they think I'm a bad guy, and now I have to like, what the hell am I going to do? I can negotiate, I can beg, I can run away, I can fight back to the death. You know, a lot of different options.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Depends, situational.
Yeah, and emotion should play into that as well. Like if you've really
this is where the bard comes in.
well, I will say like this is not really a good example, but one of my favorite little things in Baldur's Gate 3, there is a devil that you interact with, and
Spoilers.
yeah, and there is a chance that you can fight this guy, and you might learn some information about him that you can later mock him as you're getting ready to fight, and like he ends the negotiation side if you choose this, because he's just like, nope, all right, fuck you, I'm gonna kill you right now because you just crossed a line.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Yeah.
You know, I do think that like having that little bit of emotion, if it makes sense for that character to have emotion like that, to be beholden to those emotions, you know, adding that in, like, oh, they're not running because you have truly pissed them off. You've given them good cause to really just want to end you.
Think about their flaws.
Yeah.
Like if they're easily like angered and stuff like that.
I was just thinking
pride.
I was thinking about the Lich example again. It'd be so fun if throughout, like if it driven to combat or the heroes try to like fight this Lich or whatever, that the Lich starts using spells in like a really weird way because he's just like practicing. He's like, can I use spells like this? And he like, so half of his mind is still like just researching magic as he's like fighting these people, because he's just like, I wonder if I can use teleportation in this way. And he's like teleporting things to fall on the creatures and all that kind of thing.
You're going to say he's teleporting. He's trying to teleport inside of you so he can burst.
That'd be so good.
The Ant-Man strap.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what were you saying, Shane?
So, you know, emotion. I would also say they also need to fight strategically, like that's where obviously we were talking about with instincts, like the animal might have various strats that it's trying to achieve, but you know, we've talked at various points about, okay, well, they're gonna double tap you. They see you go down. They're still fighting the rest of your friends, but they want to make sure that
every time.
Yeah,
I mean, and also they would lay traps. Wild beast monsters wouldn't lay traps, and a sentient creature would lay traps. Sentient creature would also like maybe try to stall you for a while help comes. Right. And they have reinforcements on the way.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't think about the combat as just like this person's going to try to swing on this person. How is what would this person do to try to swing the odds in their favor, knowing that
you should also be doing.
Yeah.
Should.
How one might.
How one might. You might also mind to do that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the thing
we're right. I think we're smart.
I think we're really
we did a good job.
Yeah,
we should pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, we should.
I still
and one might.
I still am cautious around the way that making like combat feel for the players as well with this kind of thing, because like no one likes to feel like you know.
Yeah. I mean, you can add an element of randomness in there. So we just ended an arc in our Waterdeep game. I had a fucking demon be summoned that was 400 HP or something like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was insane. It was an insane amount of HP. And you all fucked it up. And I knew you probably would, but if it had gotten a hit off specifically on Falkirk, that could have been life-ending for him.
Nice.
His HP is good, but this thing did like somewhere between 80 to 120 in a hit.
Yeah.
It could, if it did this specific attack.
One might.
Yeah.
One might could.
And I rolled a dice openly because I was like, okay, what's the opening salvo here? You know what? This is a big dumb demon. I'm not going to have it pick on anyone in particular. It's just a chaos monster. I will roll the die. It ended up being Falkirk, and thankfully he had all the various like shields, and I think you cast maybe silver barbs on it too.
I think so.
And you know, like everything just was like, all right, it fucking barely misses you.
Yeah.
So you don't take that damage. If you really want to tiptoe around not making someone feel targeted, you could do a more random.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, never underestimate the power of a reaction roll. Roll 2d12, and in the middle it's neutral. Towards the 2, it is unfriendly, and towards the 12, it is friendly. If you don't have a good idea of like, how might these bandits react to these people? I was like, well, they're going to be friendly because they just scored they're having dinner.
Yeah.
They're not going to fucking bandit right now.
Well, I was reading like a comic or a book recently. I kind of forget which this was, but it was.
Did it have pictures?
No. I'm just thinking like I'm remembering the concept, but not exactly how I got this concept.
Interesting.
But it was basically like there are bandits, but there was like essentially escorts of like a trading caravan. But then they like met each other and they were like, oh, fucking yeah, come have dinner. Because they knew each other because the trading company like regularly would send some money to these bandits with these people so they could get a good relationship and be like, hey, like we pass through here fine. It's like tolls.
We're paying a protection.
Yeah, and like you guys are responsible for just making sure that like this area is clear for us. We'll like come by, say hi, pay our respects, and you'll like keep other bandits out essentially. So everybody wins. And I was like, that would be a really fun thing in a game if you're like rolling up and a bandit's like, oh hey, sorry man, but like you cannot be here. Like this area is tunnel snakes turf. You have to go back that way. Otherwise, like if you want to pay a fee or whatever, I'll take you through. Like that kind of thing where they're just like, you know, fine. They're still jerks, but they're fine. I think that could be really fun.
You might still fight them.
Yeah.
You'd be like, no, I'm not paying that shit. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. And I think it would be interesting.
And you're the jerk.
Yeah, it could be really interesting too. Like I love the
You're
rumor
gonna kill
jar.
me because I'm charging you a toll. Really? Live free or die?
This is New Hampshire. So I think that could be like a really fun way. Is like really placing a motivation. It sounds like is the big thing for monsters, and like that's. Like you said, Franco, you could roll on a table for these motivations if it's a random encounter of wolves in the woods. You can roll and be like, they're hungry, or you're in its territory and its young are around. It's like that kind of thing. So, anything else that people want to say?
No.
Anyone else?
Play smarter, not harder.
Love it.
There you go.
Shade?
Play harder, not smarter.
Ooh, we're gonna have to resolve that next time on Tabletops. Goodbye.
Wait, Shade. Okay, bye.